I'm Harrison Howard, host of the Thread podcast. Today I'm joined by Kate McCaffrey, CEO and founder at Paradigm Twist, a unique business that specializes in consulting and business coaching. This episode is just amazing for anyone looking to getting into that space, specifically as a small business entrepreneur. Hope you guys enjoy. Welcome back to the Thread podcast, where we uncover the real struggles and real wins of entrepreneurs and CEOs across the country. I'm your host, Harrison Howard, and today I'm joined by Kate McCaffrey, CEO and founder of Paradigm Twist. Dr. Kate McCaffrey is a leader and coach who has devoted her career to unlocking human leadership and potential. Kate's expertise spans project and change management, strategic budgeting, and resource allocation, all guided by her deep commitment to helping people and organizations exceed expectations. Kate holds a PhD in Human Resource Studies and Higher Education Leadership from Colorado State University, a master's in Student Affairs also from CSU, and a bachelor's in Sociology from the Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts. She's also a certified executive coach through the Center for Executive Coaching, an Everything DISC facilitator and trainer, and a CQ Change Intelligence facilitator and trainer. Kate, welcome to the show.
Hi, Harrison. Thanks for having me.
Of course, super excited to jump into some of the knowledge that's in your mind and share it with some of our audience. Kate, you've been in executive coaching and consulting for some time now. Can you give us a brief overview of what your career looked like prior to starting your own business at Paradigm?
Sure. I spent close to 30 years working in higher education administration in what they call the student affairs side of campus colleges and universities. Probably spent my career on 7 or 8 different campuses and worked to develop community, develop programs, and work with teams to help create student experiences that help them to thrive and succeed on a campus. 2019, I made the decision to leave my position as a vice president for student affairs and dean of students and launch this company called Paradigm Twist Executive Coaching and Consulting.
Cool. And what motivated you to propel yourself into that space? That's a pretty big jump to take.
It was a pretty big jump. I had spent a lot of time throughout my career at a variety of campuses building both training programs for professionals, but then also student leadership development programs. And thinking about what I really wanted to be doing, I had done some work when I was working on my PhD and done some research around change and change leadership and readiness and thinking about how we do change and really wanting to help people, especially within higher education, just do change better. And I had a great relationship with my cabinet and my president was the one who said to me, people like me need someone like you. You should go do this on your own and do your own thing, not join a big firm. And so he was the inspiration behind, and he teaches social entrepreneurship. So certainly has a background that helped me sort of understand what that might look like. And I made the leap during the pandemic, actually, which was not planned, but certainly was an opportunity to really have some time to think and reflect and create some things. And I had some clients really quickly early on who were just trying to get some projects done or initiatives done that hired me to be able to work with their campuses and their campus leadership, which is how I got started.
Okay, cool. And I'm curious, jumping over to the entrepreneurship space, what did your overhead look like in starting that business? Was that a big adjustment, or do you feel like you're able to seamlessly jump into that space financially and then the lifestyle adjustment as well?
Yeah, it was a big adjustment. And I guess there were times when it felt easy and mostly really hard. And it continues to be in different ways. I think oftentimes when I'm in circles with other small business owners or self-employed business owners, it's the same kind of challenge, right? Especially growing up and living on a college campus and working, you have a community built in and people built in. And certainly in 2020, a lot of us were spending time in small circles or alone. And so I wasn't the only one in that transition at the time, which I think helped. But at the same time, it was certainly a big transition to not, going to an office every day or not necessarily having a full day of plans. And so that was a big adjustment for me as far as thinking about managing time, managing money, thinking about the pricing of it all, thinking about do I travel or do I do it virtually? So lots of decisions to be made in ways that I hadn't really had to think about the work before.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love taking that leap. Do you feel like taking that leap and, I don't know, just like going to work, having a completely blank slate before did you enjoy that, or was that something that kind of scared you in the beginning?
I enjoyed it. I was ready for a break, to be honest, from the day to day of a small college campus, and
Okay.
my day being somewhat dictated by the decision making of 18 to 21-year-olds was a little bit challenging at times. And really, I was looking for a change and was able to have the support to do that and the opportunity to do that. And I owned property. I lived on a campus house, but I owned property. So it made it even more viable for me to be able to make that change and geographically make a change as well.
Okay, thanks for sharing. So I'm curious, that's obviously a challenge that you faced. What do you feel like is the greatest challenge that you've had to face during your 5 years here at Paradigm Twist?
I would say it's understanding what the needs are of my clients and being able to create, whether that's content or provide a resource in a way that's going to help them have the impact that they want to have. As an educator, I truly want to be able to have that impact. And now thinking about why I do this, it's really around helping people understand that they can be better change leaders that impact the humans in positive ways. And really, that was my goal and my vision when I started. And Paradigm Twist comes from the idea that we don't need to have 25 things to do or large pivots or big changes. We can do small things, a twist at a time, to have the impact that we want to have. And a paradigm could be a mindset, could be a belief, could be a goal, could be a strategy, and then really think about what do we need to do from an action and from a behavior standpoint in order to have that impact. So I've been able to really kind of create that formula for the paradigm twist and then teach it because I think we're living in a world now where many people are really overwhelmed. And so I feel like the work that I do can be adapted to whatever industry in some ways, but really is seeing an impact within higher education. And so for me, it was really kind of thinking about that, day to day when you're a vice president. Sometimes you don't get to be creative or make those decisions all the time. What you have to do is pretty much prescriptive, or the people you're seeing are people who you supervise. And so understanding it from that perspective is very different than being able to create something and also do the research, I guess, as a social scientist to understand how is this going to impact people and is this going to be helpful and is this going to be something people will want to invest in has been one of the biggest shifts for me from thinking about it from a campus-based role to this now company-based role.
Okay, cool. So the solutions that you offer at Paradigm Twist, is this curriculum that you're selling, or is it more of an individual coaching where you like go in and you look at the issues that they're having and then you change those? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a both and, I would say. For individual coaching clients, it's kind of understanding where they're at or what led them to wanting to have an executive coach. Oftentimes, there's an assessment included with that, whether it's a DISC assessment or a 360 through the Leadership Circle profile that I'm also certified in. For teams and groups of people, it's really talking with whoever's hiring me. So usually that's the manager or the leader and finding out what's going on, why do they want to bring somebody in, what are their goals with that, and then crafting the experience that's going to be able to help them achieve those outcomes and then create a path forward for how they want to be either as a leadership team or as an organization together. And so I've been able to use some of the work that I did as an administrator, but then also use a lot of new things that I've learned as an entrepreneur that can integrate with my vision and my values and be able to really help people think about how they can just be better humans in the world as we think about the work and the people work that we do consistently.
Okay, I love that. I love the creativity that you get to put into there. I think that's fun. That seems
It
fun
is
to me.
fun. Yeah, and I guess I would add that from a virtual perspective, right? I think the world has changed. that being able to do some of this virtually has been really a pivot as well in thinking about where do I fit into that both from a virtual standpoint and fly somewhere and bring me in for a day is a different experience than doing it online.
Oh, yeah, I'm kinda glad you mentioned that. I feel like I feel like everyone in this world is competing against ChatGPT and offering our
Mhm.
solutions to everything. I'm
Right,
curious,
right.
looking into sort of that technology side of things, how have you felt, I guess, advancing technology is able to help you in your business? And then have you felt like it's hurt you in any ways as well and limited your opportunities? What does that look like?
Sure. Yeah. So this year, after lots of conversations with a lot of senior leaders, presidents, and vice presidents on campuses, and some of the work that I'd been doing, around with nonprofits and other entities, other industries, really thinking about how do I guess, as this company, and how do we as people who serve industries be able to provide the opportunity that's both accessible and affordable? And I think using technology is one way to do that. And so actually this year I'm launching an online platform that will allow people to take a course that helps them understand their own leadership approach, how that translates to others around them, and then how to lead and manage in a changing environment and in a changing world from a change leadership and readiness perspective. And so that's both, asynchronous content that people can do, modules that I've created based on the work that I've done, and then as well as sort of synchronous virtual or potentially in person, depending, opportunities to come together and have like a mastermind masterclass type of environment where people can share what they're learning, share what they're challenged by, and get insight both from me and from other participants in the program. And I'm really excited about that model because I think it gives more opportunity for people to connect, especially given what's going on and especially in higher education right now. People don't have a lot of money to invest in their people. And doing something like this can make it a little bit more affordable and accessible for those who can't engage in a certificate program of other kinds or go to a conference or professional development experience. So I'm excited about that technology. And actually, honestly, it's not my forte. So the back end of things. So I've got a company that's helping me build that from the administrative, operational, technical side.
That is awesome. That's awesome. So your clients who come in and purchase this like software, or not software, but who purchase this curriculum, will they also have access to like lifetime coaching that you give, or how does that
Yes.
work?
Yep. That's my intention is to provide a little bit of individual, and then they can certainly add on an individual coaching package to go with it. But then also a couple of times a month getting together to be able to either to provide content or give some space for almost like an office hour,
Okay.
or an open door kind of time where they can just ask questions and understand the content a little bit better, or maybe work on it together, depending on where they're at in the curriculum and what they want to do with that experience. And then
Okay.
group coaching in mastermind is another way to kind of think about that work. And so bringing people together to share those insights and share that content to bring awareness to each other and support will be part of it as well.
That is super cool. That's inspiring. I love that. I'm kind of curious as far as so I know getting a curriculum to people, that's a whole different marketing ploy, I guess, that you would need to
Mhm.
implement. Your clients now, how do you go about finding those? Are you walking into businesses and shaking hands, or what does that look like?
Sure. Yeah. I have a very large network across the country because of the work that I did previously. And so, really trying to, I guess, in some ways, re engage with a lot of folks that I've known and for many years, but then also find myself into new places. Like, I often will go to a conference and I get accepted to speak. The most popular topic right now is around thinking about how to manage change in a constantly changing environment. So kind of
Hmm.
change fatigue and uncertainty to change leadership and readiness, and kind of thinking about how do we think about new ways to lead that are beyond the reactive. And so that's probably my most popular topic right now. So I've done quite a few regional and national conferences. And then I also do online work. I just did a webinar with an organization that I'm a partner with this past week. And we had about 50 or so people who attended. And it was all around this idea of how do we just figure out how to regain some momentum through this current situation that we find ourselves in.
Okay. Wow. I was just talking to a good family friend actually earlier this morning about how I just feel like everything is always changing a little bit too fast. And I was asking him, I was
Mhm.
like, I wonder if there's a way that I could just like freeze time for a month and have things change. And he was like, that's not how that works. But
Well, if you figure
that's
that
cool.
out, let me know.
Yeah, yeah, I will. I will. I'll be doing more than running a podcast if I figure that out.
Right,
So
for sure.
awesome, awesome. Well, good stuff. So obviously, you mentioned you see this curriculum coming out here in the next year or two. Where do you see your business going in the next 10 years? Do you have goals for that, or have you even looked that far? What
Yeah,
does that look
I do. I think, 10 years feels like a really long time, but in the grand scheme of things, 5 years did too when I started. And, I think what I'm doing now feels more connected to who I am and who I want to be, both as an educator, trainer, but also as a coach, and wanting to do more speaking at bigger audiences, as well as doing more writing. And, I think I've got some people that I'm working on a couple of different projects with. I've got a book started because I really think that that's one way to kind of share insights and knowledge. Being in academia for my whole life, I still value some of those things. And that in-person connection with people, I think, is really valuable. So hoping to be able to do more of that would be my goal in the next 10 years, and thinking about how do I translate it to campuses in order to be able to help them thrive as well in the next decade.
awesome? Yeah, I just love the fact that you're able to use your network that you already had existing to build your business. That is awesome. I think that's so key. I think new entrepreneurs can sometimes get scared
Uh-huh.
to use their family and friends as potential business clients for themselves. But if you have a real solution to offer, might as well. You know, it can only
Well, right,
benefit.
and I think that, the network I've built over the course of 2 decades, and with both 2 graduate degrees plus multiple campuses and roles, I think you're right, I was a little afraid to kind of activate that right away, so it took me a couple of years to figure out how to do that. Certainly through COVID, we would have, online kind of Zoom time together, but I wasn't really talking about my business, and now I've been a little bit more confident about doing that, especially as I've pivoted into this direction.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, two more questions for you, then we'll close up. As far as reaching out to those leads, I guess your
Uh-huh.
network of individuals, do you have any tips for not making it sound salesy whenever you're reaching out to the people you already know in terms of giving them and providing them the solution?
Yeah, I think it's about finding your authentic voice. And I know that that's a little bit cliche, but I think for me it's about what are the challenges or issues that people are facing right now. And for many, I believe it's the people parts, right? It's what we often call the soft skills, which are really the hard skills, I think, when it comes to communication and problem solving and psychological safety. And so, I think that the solutions I have can really help people be able to thrive better in the roles that they're in, and then support the people that they're managing in the roles as well. And I think that's industry agnostic right now is what I'm hearing and seeing.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's great advice. And then last question for you, Kate. For entrepreneurs looking to get into the consulting and coaching industry, what advice do you have for them?
I would say be able to think about what you really want to focus on and do that, because I think there's a lot of people doing executive coaching and consulting. And so having a narrow focus, like you heard me talk about my focus on leadership and change leadership specifically for middle managers in higher education. And that's a very narrow window, and it will broaden as I continue to build, especially these online experiences. But I think really kind of figuring out who is it, what are they like, what do they need, and how can I support them based on my passion and my expertise? Because if you're not excited about what you're doing, it's not gonna go well for you or for your clients.
I love that. I love that. I love the idea of honing in your focus in order to bring in results. I think that is so key, especially when starting a business. I feel like it can be so easy to try and cast a net as large as you can in order to get whatever you
Mhm.
can. But
Yeah.
sometimes just having that focus and that refinement can
Mhm.
yield very promising results. So thank you, Kate.
Yeah. The other thing I would say too is to find community. I think when I started, I was alone and kind of thinking about it alone, and then found my way toward others that were in similar roles or doing the same kind of work, even. But then also finding people who help people like me and having those communities. Like I'm part of a women-owned business mastermind group. I'm part of a marketing support group. And so, I think finding others that you can connect with, we're never too old to make new friends and acquaintances. And so even as an entrepreneur working alone, there's opportunities to do that in a lot of fun and collaborative ways.
Super inspiring and super helpful as well. I'm grateful to have met you, Kate. I'm grateful you're a part of the network that I have now. Um, we're super glad to have you on the Thread podcast. This is going to be a shorter episode. Thank you to our listeners for listening as well. And we look forward to hearing you next time and seeing you next time on the Thread.